Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans. From a diehard Houston sports fan, I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I once stood behind Paul Wall in a Kroger in the Heights. That's right, y'all. I'm famous. I might not know how to enunciate. I might need to do my vocal warm-ups, but I'm Kroger famous. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here. You start absent-mindedly calling it the 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports was started as a passion project because most media is infuriating. As a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros, here we aren't doom and gloom casual Houston fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our team and root them on, but we also try to discuss the ins and outs of our team without too much homerism. Keyword, try. Welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey brother, shout out to Jesse, shout out to Arrested Development fans. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience depending on your interpretation of my pronunciation there. We are recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla the dog is here with me. Long-term listeners of the pod know that she may get on mic from time to time. Yep, she's got the hot takes on this podcast. On this episode, we talk about the Houston Astros' first series against the New York Mets. We talk some March Madness with UH advancing past Purdue. We check in with the Houston Rockets, and we even say goodbye at the end of the podcast to Stephon Diggs. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome this season. I want to have a special welcome to you. I want to shout out to returning listeners. And of course, you all know that we want to wish everyone a big good day, mates. But a special big good day, mates, to Australian listeners out there. When we first started the podcast, we started off skyrocketing up those Australian baseball charts. And we love our Australian listeners here on the podcast. That's right. We were just outside the top 100 when we launched of Australian baseball podcasts. So we're trying to boost those numbers up. Good day, mates. Welcome to the pod. Welcome, H-Town hustlers. Welcome, everybody. Let's get to it. Vamos, Houston. Your Houston Astros beat the New York Mets 2-1 yesterday behind the power of Pena and clutch hitting, just when we need it. We're struggling with hitting a bit, but we got the hits we needed to win the game. The Astros are also 2-1 on the season, taking the series officially from the Mets. Someone check on Grimace. Let's look at some key takeaways here from your Houston Astros 3-game series against the Mets. I know a lot of y'all are sad because there's no Astros game today. There's no baseball. We got 3 games of baseball and then they took it away from us. But yeah, I think the team I'm glad the team has a little bit of a reset here. The offense wasn't quite there at the start of the season, but let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's right, call me Sergio Leone, because it is time for some spaghetti westerns here. The good, truly starting pitching here for your Houston Astros out the gate. Their starting pitching is looking good. I also have to apologize. I don't know why I decided to record a podcast in Los Angeles with my windows open, but there it looks like there will be hammering. There is construction. There'll probably be some helicopters. So on top of the dog noises, there will be extra noises on the podcast today. I apologize for that. But let's talk about our starting pitching. La Grasa in the home opener, ace status. Framber Valdez started our home opener. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts, obviously keeping that 0 ERA and maintaining his ace status. He was absolutely great and dominant in that opening game. Yeah, obviously we'd like less walks, we'd like less hits, but he had a great game for 7 innings. I'll take it. That's fantastic. In the second game, Hunter Brown started. Diesel gave us 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, 3 runs. 2 of them were earned. One of those was based off of an error. He technically, we'll get to it later, but he had a pickoff throw that was dropped. That run ended up coming around to haunt the Astros. Diesel also gave up 3 walks. However, he got 7 strikeouts. He won me a little prop bet there. I don't like to admit my gambling vices too much, but I felt really good about Diesel getting a lot of strikeouts. He executed. He only gave up 1 home run. However, he did give up that 1 home run to Juan Soto in that game, ending his game with a 3 ERA. And truly, he ended in a loss there, which was tough. That was the 2-1 loss that the Astros had in that second game. And, Hunter Brown, his hero is Justin Verlander, so I feel like it's only appropriate that the Houston Astros gave him the Justin Verlander treatment in no run support. And, look, it's not just an Astros thing. Apparently, it haunted Justin Verlander when he went to pitch. I believe it was that same day he pitched for San Francisco. I believe that was in Cincinnati. He didn't get much run support, but he pitched a decent game. So it was good to see JV out there on the mound. We don't root against our former Astros players. Unless they're playing against us. So it was good to see JV out there. But Diesel, our Hunter Brown, our JV now definitely got the lack of run support Justin Verlander treatment that he would get in his tenure with the Astros. In the third game yesterday, Spencer Arrighetti started. He was our starting pitcher yesterday. He went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit, just allowed 1 run, so one earned run, gave up 2 walks and 5 strikeouts, picking up a win himself with a 1.5 ERA in the beginning of this season. These starting pitchers were great for your Houston Astros. They weren't really rusty. It didn't look like they were in spring still. They were ready to go. They are ready to pitch for your Houston Astros. It was great to see. Even the spaghetti time yesterday, we were all a little nervous to see how Spencer would do in his second season. His rookie season was a little tough. He was called up to really kind of, take a position and take up a mop-up, almost like a mop-up role in the Houston Astros rotation. However, their rotation was so injured last year, they really depended on the young man. So it was good to see Spencer Arrighetti adjust and do well in that game. Overall, your Houston Astros starting pitchers got 3 quality starts, pitched 19 innings, gave up 3 earned runs with 16 strikeouts. Look, we should have won that series. We should have swept it if the Houston Astros offense would execute the way that we were hoping that they would be able to execute, not only in that series, but this season. However, it is still spring. I know a lot of people are very upset about the Houston Astros offense. We should have swept. We should have won. What is this season going to be like? The people are wringing their hands. They're gnashing their teeth. They're tearing their clothes. They're shaving their heads. The Astros won a series, guys. Calmate. I have to hit you with a calmate already. I truly think that, yeah, we want to win big. Yeah, we want to see the team dominate. They won a series. We were worried that this team wasn't going to be very good. Some of y'all, I thought they were going to be good. I'm on record saying I think they can win 90 games this season. But a lot of people were saying they're not very good. They won their first game, and then all of a sudden, their expectations are through the roof, and y'all are like, oh, they only won 2 games. This team isn't good. Some of y'all are just looking to get upset sometimes, I swear. I think this team is doing pretty good. Let's look at some more good things from Houston Astros. Let's start with Cam Smith here, folks. We have a graphic up on the blog. Check out the Substack for all graphics, all memes, all articles and podcasts, obviously. But Cam Smith is looking good. He's looking confident. His first hit, he got his first hit in the major leagues immediately as the game started. First pitch swinging, first hit of his career, getting it out of the way early and not having to stress about it. He also has been picking up some walks. He's working walks. He's getting hits. He's making plays. He did have a kind of a bungled sliding play in right field there, but he was going for the play, and I think if he gets that timing right, he'll be able to make that sliding catch. I think Cam Smith, for all the hand-wringing I even did about Cam Smith, I think he looks good. Now, so a lot of people, I get it. You can call me out on worrying a little bit about Cam Smith, but it was fairly reasonable. The young man's only played 30-something, 32, I believe, minor league games. When you're looking at prospects, and when you're somebody like me, I admit I'm a fan. I'm not a baseball scout. When you're looking at prospects, you only have so much information. And for a guy like me, I have the games to look at. I'm not there and watching them practice. I'm not able to go and completely scout a player. I have to scout based off of games. So with my limited sample size, and with all pundits saying that, this might be a big jump for any player to make, I was a little worried about Cam. But after seeing him play, good Lord, I have a lot of confidence in Cam Smith. He is an aircraft carrier. I understand why they traded for him. I understand why they have him on the opening day roster. I'm still a little concerned. And that concern is only because a guy like Cam Smith, it's not that I don't trust the talent. It's that he is a huge part of the future success of the Houston Astros organization. And we want his first steps with this organization to be successful ones, to be confidence building. And it looks like he's pretty confident at the plate. It looks like, he took some pitches off the plate, and he one of his strikeouts for sure was his strikeout that was like not a strikeout. Two of his strikeouts, I would say, were a little on the edge there. One of them for sure was not a strikeout. He didn't get the call, but he has the confidence to take pitches, and I really think that this young man has a lot of confidence. I'm liking what I'm seeing. As long as he looks like he might be a pure natural third baseman, but it looks like he has the athleticism and the arm to play right field, and I'm excited about this young man. I even ordered a Cam Smith hat. I made a USS Smith hat, and I ordered it, and on one of these video podcasts I'll share it with you. I'm hoping if it's of good quality, I really would love I could make you guys some hats too. We'll get into my expanding merchandising, my clothing brand that's happening later. Let's also talk about Jeremy Pena. JP3, La Tormenta. He was fantastic last night, hitting his first home run of the season, the Astros' first home run of the season, the first Astros home run in Daikin Park officially went to La Tormenta. Jeremy Pena is manager Joe Espada's pick the stick. He thinks that Jeremy Pena is going to have a big season. I think Jeremy Pena is going to have a big season. He's looking more confident. It looks like he's trying to lay off some of those pitches down in a way that's been kind of haunting his career. And he looks like he's going to have some return to power and return to swagger. I love that home run. It's still an early season. There's a limited sample size, but, JP3 is looking good. I think his OPS is looking pretty good right now, even if his batting average isn't. I think he is going to be getting on base a whole lot more. I think he's going to be stealing some bases. I think he's going to be hitting for power, and I think his defense is going to be returning. I'm saying book it now. JP3 is going to be in contention for all-star nod at shortstop. I think he's going to be great this season. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. And the last little note of good is Jordan. Look, his batting average might not look great right now in the limited sample size, and he did pop up on a bases loaded situation last night on a, we all thought that was going to be a fly, out of bounds pop up, but Vientos just was able to lean over and catch it to put him away. But Jordan looks like a terrifying threat. He looks like he's ready to mash in that batter's box. He's making big hits. He got, 2 big RBIs in the series, one in the win last night. He also had a sac fly. We need Jordan and Walker to feast this season. This Astros lineup doesn't quite have the power threat that Astros lineups in the past have had. In Dyken Park, we had, Paredes and Walker and a lot of our guys, they have increased numbers because of the short fence in the Crawford boxes for sure. But overall, this lineup doesn't quite have the pop of years past, the slugging that Astros fans are quite used to, which we have been spoiled by an abundance of riches in Houston. I've said it throughout the golden era. I've tried to tell y'all that this is not normal to have a baseball team that is this deep and this good. We were truly spoiled, and now that we're more of an average kind of normal style baseball team, everybody is freaking out. I think that that this lineup is going to be good. It's going to hit for power, but we really need the guys in the heart of the lineup to be dominant. They can't have too many bad days, and I think Jordan is ready for this season. He's ready for the challenge. I like what I'm seeing. Moving on from the good, let's get to the bad and the ugly. That's right, your boy Space Cadet isn't just going to be showering praise over the Astros. Let's talk about what we don't like. And starting off with the bad, let's talk about RISP. That's right, if y'all have been reading the blog, you know RISP, you know runners in scoring position, you know that ugly acronym that I bring up all the time because it's something that the Astros have been struggling with. Yet again, the Astros weren't the best bringing the boys home, getting runners in scoring position to score. You want runners in scoring position ideally to score. Otherwise, they're just runners in position, RIP. RIP to our offense when we don't bring them home, right? The Astros tend to be aggressive swingers, and since the lineup doesn't quite have the slugging and the power they used to, sometimes the swings lead to double plays or frustratingly just loud outs sometimes. I'm looking for better results this season in the situation. Less aggressive swinging to get into good counts from some of our hitters is going to be necessary. Altuve is going to Altuve. But even Tuve, focuses up and is more selective the later in the game it gets, the higher of a pressure situation it is. We need our team to follow our leader and to have that focused aggression and focused selection when the time calls for it, to be able to pass the baton, to get on base, work that OPS, work some walks every now and again, get a hit. Don't necessarily just swing at things that seems, hittable. We're trying to get selective hits. I want them to keep the pressure on. I think this team will get enough offense. They have the tools, they have the capability, but we need them to be selective and to be selectively aggressive and selectively selective, I guess is what I'm saying. We'll find a way to figure out what to word that a little better here on the podcast, but we want to shake this ghost from haunting them. Another thing in the bad, I hate to say it, but Christian Walker, and I'm not panicking. We're not busting out the official Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros panic meter. It's not that. It's 3 games into the season, and the Astros are up. We're not panicking. We're just watching Walker. He is still getting into form, arguably. Let's remember this before I get too mean. Before I rip into Walker, I'm not trying to read him to filth. Walker is still getting into form. He didn't have a spring training, and he's coming back from an oblique injury. So this is a limited sample size. He's still getting right. He's still getting his reps in. So I say once again, calmate. He will be okay, but my goodness, it was a bit of a rough series. I bet he's going to break out soon. We want it to happen soon. I don't want to just bet. I need it to happen soon. So we're watching Walker. We're going to need that slugging from the middle of the offense. Middle of the lineup, I should say. The ugly, we'll start with keeping runners honest. This has been a thing that truly has been a struggle of the Houston Astros for some time. When Martin Maldonado was here, long-term listeners of the podcast know that I loved Machete. He wasn't everybody's favorite because he was kind of an offensive, nothing sometimes. And my argument for that is he is a catcher on an offensive, like, playoff contending powerhouse. He shouldn't be expected to be an offensive threat all the time. He is a defensive mastermind and field general. You have somebody like Machete on your team to help keep base runners honest, to help the pitcher from even having to think about base runners. And Martin Maldonado really spoiled our pitching staff by having them not really have to stress on runners most of the time. And he was at that point, he was in a better form. He was a younger, player. A lot of people were calling for Yainer Diaz to be starting. And, Yainer Diaz had great pop time. He had great defensive metrics. But the thing I was saying when people were calling for Yainer to start, I was like, this is limited sample size. When you have to start taking over the everyday catching responsibilities of a team, everything starts to suffer a bit. Your offense isn't quite what it used to be. Your defense isn't quite what it used to be. You're not running quite as fast as you used to. Catching takes a wear and tear, and it takes a huge toll on the body. Catching ain't easy, y'all. And I think Yainer Diaz, a lot of his defensive metrics has kind of dulled since he's been the everyday starting catcher for the Houston Astros. So I'm asking for both Yainer Diaz and the catching staff and the pitching staff to not let these base runners run rampant. And this series was a little frustrating at times. I think new second baseman Brendan Rodgers, dropping that pickoff from Hunter Brown in the second game really made this a focal point for me. It was something I was looking at the Astros to improve from last season, but I think with this series starting like this, maybe it wasn't the worst thing, but it is something that I am watching carefully and I'm fairly critical of because I want to see Yainer and the pitching staff get better at keeping runners honest and just, sometimes giving a hoot about them. Just sometimes, there's situations where you don't need to worry about the runner. But sometimes it just seems like nobody was really tracking the runner, neither the pitcher or the catcher. And, if we're going to be playing a lot of close games, we can't just be giving people an extra bag here and there. The last thing and ugly here is Brendan Rodgers. And I hate to say it, we're definitely being a little critical of the new coming Astros. But Brendan Rodgers was 0 for 6 in the series with an error. Still called in for the defensive close yesterday. Altuve was taken out of left. Mauricio Dubon went from second to left, and Rodgers went into left field. Rodgers is a defensive specialist. He makes good defensive plays, but that error was a bit of honestly, what happened with that error is Brendan Rodgers was looked up at the last second. He wasn't watching the ball. He looked up at the last second, dropped the ball. He was looking at the runner to see if he needed to throw the ball back to first. It happens, even with professionals. But we're hoping that his bat picks up and these errors don't plague him anymore. And you're like, oh no, Rodgers is a starting second baseman, right? This isn't good. But don't fret, my pet. Second base is going to be a platoon this season. We still have Dubon. We still have Altuve, who's going to play a good amount of second base on the road. He might even sub in sometimes in Dyken Park, guys. Don't fret, my pet, as Urkel would say. Plus, we still have Luis Guillorme. We have a vet in the minors, ready to sub in if Rogers isn't him. We also have Shea Whitcomb in the minors, the Astros minor league player of the year last season. He definitely had some errors, if you remember last season at third base. However, I think those were just the yibs. I think Shea could be a decent second baseman, and he's definitely offensively strong. And even if those two guys aren't there, or aren't available, or aren't quite, gelling, we have Bryce Matthews in the wings. Bryce Matthews could very well be the future second baseman of your Houston Astros. So, even though we're a little worried about Rogers, we're hoping his bat picks up. We're hoping that these errors don't plague him. It's just 3 games into the season. We're not that worried yet, but we are watching because it wasn't a good start. Before we take our break here, folks, or actually, you know what? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some more baseball news, and we'll get to some basketball as well.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Welcome back, folks. We are ready to talk some more baseball here. Let's start off with a victory lap for your boy. That's right. Just want to mention in the last podcast there, I called the opening day starters. That's right. I did it, y'all. Pay me my money now. The writing was kind of on the wall. I felt like I took a good feel on Brendan Rodgers getting the opening day nod over Mauricio. And that's just, like I was saying, I think they like the flexibility of Mauricio coming off the bench. He's more of a sub-starter. That could change, especially if Brendan Rodgers is struggling a little bit. But I was happy that I was able to nail the opening day starters for y'all. I was also in my article the day before the third game. I also called for manager Joe Espada to shake up the lineup, potentially adding Mauricio in there. I guess he reads the blog because all of the bench started in the third game of the series. All of the bench got to get some play there, so I was happy to see that. Obviously, got a win for the Astros, so I'm taking my victory lap here. And also, we wanted to talk quickly about those torpedo bats that the New York Yankees were using. A lot of people are talking about this in the news right now. Not going to lie, maybe in the background right now, the Milwaukee-New York game is being played. I got to get a look at those torpedo bats. A lot of people are saying that there needs to be investigations into them. Obviously, the Yankees won 20-9. That was insane. Nasty Nestor Cortez had a tough game. But honestly, when I'm looking at these bats and when I'm looking at the rules, all I've got to say is, I want these bats. Why don't we have a lab of evil scientists on this now? If the Astros don't do this, I'll be kind of frustrated. I do think that the Astros could use some bats like that. I do think that maybe it does condition your swing to be late. Basically the way the torpedo bats work is the barrel of the bat is adjusted to the individual hitter a little bit. It's moved down towards the handle of the bat as opposed to the top of it, so that if you're a little late on your pitch, the barrel is moved back, so it kind of forgives late swings, and you catch more of the barrel, therefore equating into more solid hits, and obviously that can equate to more home runs. I don't know about the long-term effects of it affecting your swing or anything like that. I'm sure actual baseball players could speak to that better than I can, but I think that if it is a legal tool that can be used, why don't we have some scientists working on some bats? Truly, if the Astros did this, the news would never stop. It would be nonstop headlines. However, all joke, I wish I could come on here and joke and dunk on the Yankees, but I frankly can't here. You know, I think we should get these bats too. Moving on, the Astros will play the San Francisco Giants in the upcoming series starting tomorrow. Check back on the feed. I'm hoping I can get a preview podcast just about that series coming out tomorrow so we don't have extra long episodes. Today, we're going to continue to talk about basketball here before we finish up this podcast. The UH Cougars beat Purdue in a nail-biter. Coach Kelvin Sampson has a focus on late-game plays, and it showed with the team outlasting Purdue's upset bid by playing great defense and executing on offense when it counts. Excuse me. I'm burping here. That's how you know that the podcast is almost over. The game-winning inbounds play went right back to the inboundee, Milos Uzan, who laid it up to win the game. I mean, the Coogs truly won a nail biter. It was intense game to watch, 60-62, but they looked great. They were unfazed by essentially playing an away game. And they were unfazed by the moment as well. They looked sharp, and they were so impressive. How can you not be excited about this team? They play Tennessee this afternoon. I think it's actually starting right now as I'm saying this sentence. I can't wait to wrap the podcast and get the game on. It's probably ending. It's probably already ended by the time you've listened to this. But we're hoping the Cougs continue to dominate and make it to the final dance. It could happen, y'all. This team is great. Moving on to your Houston Rockets, they continue to hang on to that 2 seed despite a tough schedule, but the schedule doesn't get any easier, folks, as the season winds to an end. Your Houston Rockets, let's pull up the schedule right now. I you know me, I don't like to have any of the information I'm referencing actually pulled up. I have my notes, and whatever's on my notes is all I talk about. Tonight they're playing Phoenix, and there's a back-to-back game tomorrow as they play LA. The Lakers, I should say, they are playing LA in LA, but these are back-to-back road games. That could be a little tougher for your Houston Rockets. They definitely want to win that LA Lakers games for seedings. Then they have Utah and Oklahoma City at the end of the week. Obviously, we're not saying Utah's tough, but Phoenix and LA back-to-back, and Oklahoma City, that's going to be tough. And they also have Golden State Warriors, the Clippers, the Lakers, and the Nuggets to round out the season. So that is a tough one there. The Rockets have picked up 2 wins since our last chat, beating Atlanta in a game that got a little too close for comfort, 121-114, and beat the team that they should have beaten in the Jazz, 121-110, which, by those metrics are too close for comfort as well, seeing that they're the Jazz right now. Not to go completely Vernon Maxwell on y'all, but, they're not a good team. The Rockets, they're looking good. They're figuring things out. Jalen Green is finding a groove. Alperen Şengün is playing great. It looks like Amen Thompson is healthy. This team is looking good, y'all. And no one truly outside of Houston believes in this team's playoff hopes, but I do. I am excited about this team. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to win the championship and book it, keep the receipts. I'm not saying that. I just don't understand why everybody is like, almost like the Astros. We want Houston, they're like, we want to match up with Houston. Nobody thinks that the Rockets really can make some noise in the playoffs, but I'm excited about them. I understand their offense at times. The criticism for this team is, who do they turn to in the crunch? Who is their go-to scorer? Is it Jalen Green? Can he be him? Is it Alperen Şengün? I think, or is it Fred VanVleet that you give it to the vet? I understand those criticisms. I think this overall team play can work if they can find the hot hand and ride it. But most importantly, they play great defense. I think that if their defense is working, if they are riding the hot hand, this team can win a playoff series. Maybe having a long playoff run might be tough for this team, but I think there's some disrespect out there, and I think this team can play well in the playoffs. Let me know what you think, folks. And on that said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you for listening to this podcast. We really do appreciate y'all out there in podcast land. If you're listening to this, please smash those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, kick it, bop it, skip it. All of those things really do go a long way for us here at the podcast. We are a small podcast and we only go as far as our listeners take us. So please share us with friends, give us a good rating and review. Check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email in there and get every post, every podcast, every meme dump for free this season. I do have some things occasionally behind a paywall, but I really like to just get that content out there for you guys. If you'd like to subscribe for premium, that's great, but I want to make sure you have some content either way. Please reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, and at spacecadetsports.bsky.social on Blue Sky. Let me know your takes. Let me know how you're feeling about this, how you're feeling about the Rockets. Once again, thank you so much for listening, fam. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos, vamos, Houston.